Welcome to another edition of the DLF Dynasty podcast. I'm Dan Myler. With me, Matt Price and Ryan McDowell. Fellas, last week we had a lot of fun with the Landmines and Goldmines episode. We thought we'd flip that over to a Superflex look at things. But before you do that, let's talk to Matt. Matt, how's it going, bud?
Going well. It's SFB week, so we get to draft. There's big stuff going on. Twitter is all afoot. Everybody's talking about it. It's a fun week, man. So everything's good here. Yeah,
I know not everybody, but lots of us are off work the day that SFB kicks off because it's coming out of the holiday weekend. So we're all watching it very, very closely. Hopefully everybody's drafts are going quickly in Scott Fishbowl. We're having a lot of fun with it for sure. Ryan, I know you're one of them that's drafting today and throughout the week in SFB. How's it going, pal?
Yeah, going really well. It's just so fun. You know, I know SFB is limited to, to a certain group or a certain number, but it's kind of the unofficial kickoff to redraft season. And of course, we don't talk much redraft here on this podcast, but if nothing else, it's just another sign that football is close.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit closer, and it is limited. But you're part of it, Ryan, selecting, or maybe not selecting, but at least sending out the invites to the people that are going into SFB. But there's so many satellites now, and people are already signing up for next year's Scott Fishbowl and stuff like that. So if you want in, get on to scottfishbowl.com and get your place, because it is a lot of fun. And like you said, it is the kickoff to fantasy football season each summer. But let's get to these Landmines and Goldmines, Ryan. We did it last year. As I said, the Landmines are the players that you think are going to take that next step and become a more valuable asset to our dynasty team. The Landmines are actually the guys that could blow up in our face and become a problem for us. And then the Goldmines are the guys that are going to gain value. Last week we started off with Matt. This week we'll start off with Ryan. We're going to go round by round. Superflex ADP, the most recent on DLF. Guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson. Those kind of are the names that kick off round one. I don't guess, Ryan, that you're going to go that high in this ADP when you're looking for your gold mine, are you?
I tried not to take the chalk approach here.
Sure.
I know, thinking back to last week's episode, there was certainly a pattern with my gold mines. We did 6 rounds. I chose 6 wide receivers. I think there's going to be a similar type of pattern here today, maybe with a different position. I went with Lamar Jackson here. He is the quarterback 4, still just 24 years of age. I would still rather have Patrick Mahomes. Lamar Jackson is my QB2. So a little bit of this is just the value that I think that Jackson offers at this point. Certainly the passing is still an overall question for Lamar Jackson, both the accuracy and just the passing volume that he's going to have the chance to rack up in this coming season and beyond. But they're obviously making strides to improve that offense, and he's always going to have the rushing upside as well. So I went with Lamar as my gold mine.
Yeah, there's a few options among these quarterbacks, Matt. Did you go with a QB?
I did. I actually picked Lamar Jackson as well. Like Ryan, he's my quarterback too. All the things that Ryan said is, it's not going to match up every year where his passing is super efficient and he has a high touchdown rate like he did in 2019, right? But when in the years when he does hit with those passing and he has the rushing to go along with it, that's when you're going to see that him just really outpace the field. You might even be able to include Mahomes in that. Mahomes is obviously number one with a bullet because of that combination of safety and upside. But Lamar Jackson is right there in terms of ceiling. So he's the gold mine of this group for me.
Well, to keep it from being chalk, for you, Ryan, because you said you weren't going to go chalk. I'll stay off of Lamar Jackson. I actually went with a guy right ahead of him in ADP, took Kyler Murray. Personally, I have him at number 2 in my quarterback rankings, slightly above Lamar. Comes in at 3 overall in our ADP. I love the weapons. I love the offense that he plays in. He's one of them rushing quarterbacks as well. And if you're not going to get Patrick Mahomes, it feels to me like Kyler Murray is a really nice second prize at the top of your draft. Unfortunately, fellas, we do have to talk about the landmines, though. So, Matt, who's the guy for you in round 1 that you feel could blow up in Dynasty managers' faces?
Yeah, some of this is going to seem like a repeat from last week, to be honest with you, because, again, Dalvin Cook just sticks out like a sore thumb to me. There's no way I would take probably any running back in the first round of a Superflex draft outside of Christian McCaffrey, and it certainly wouldn't be Cook if I was going to do it. So he's the clear landmine for me for all the reasons we talked about last week.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I tried not to repeat any of my answers last week, even if they were still applicable. Instead, I just stole Matt's answer because I also went with Dalvin Cook. And I know I said last week after Matt made his case with Cook in the first round of the one quarterback ADP that I agreed with him, and Cook was probably the right answer for that. I think I chose Devontae Adams instead. But here in the Superflex format, it's even, honestly, I think it's just even a worse pick because of the value of the quarterback. I agree with Matt again. I'm almost definitely taking a quarterback in that first round. And if I am going running back, it's McCaffrey or maybe Taylor or even Barkley, but not Cook, who I just worry about how much value he has left. So I went with Dalvin Cook as the landmine here.
Yeah, I would have gone with Cook had I not done that last week. I tried to stay off of the same names as well. I actually went to the last guy in the most recent ADP. It's Russell Wilson. He's one of the older quarterbacks listed towards the top of ADP, and it's not really only that reason. It's that when you move down the list of these quarterbacks, there's just so many more that I would take over Russell Wilson at this point in his career. And I really don't want it to sound like, oh, Russell Wilson's going to go in the bag and all of a sudden dynasty managers aren't going to like him. Or he's not going to score enough points for any of us. It's more that I think guys are going to jump him relatively quickly, right? There's Joe Burrow, who's right below him at the top of round 2. And then we get into the young guys like Trey Lance and Justin Fields, all guys that I would rather have. Even when you get deeper into round 3, there's a conversation, at least for me, with guys like Jalen Hurts, who's a young quarterback and a guy that you're getting 2 full rounds later. So again, I don't hate Russell Wilson. I just don't like really taking him in round 1. Let's jump into round 2, Matt, because we go to the positive first, of course, and we need to talk some gold mines in here. There's a couple of options for sure. Who are you going to go with?
Yeah, at Goldmine, I'm going to take the only quarterback in the round. It's kind of odd that there's only one quarterback in this round. That's Joe Burrow. And, you scroll through the second round AP, you get to the third round, and like, oh, okay, there's more quarterbacks once you get down there. So it kind of makes sense that there's almost like this big teardrop after Burrow. But that said, even though he is the first pick in this round, I think I would rather have him personally than Russell Wilson for sure. And I think there's an argument to be had of putting him over Trevor Lawrence, to be honest with you. He's in that offense that's going to have a terrible defense surrounding it, right? He's got all of those weapons. He's going to throw the ball a million times. So he sticks out to me in this group. Maybe it's just because he's the only a quarterback in the range. I did originally pick, just to throw another one out there real quick, I did pick Cam Akers originally because I would rather have him than my landmine for this round, which we'll talk about, and a couple of the other running backs that went before him. So Cam Akers was the original thought, but just because of the massive drop, I think, from Burrow to the next group, I think it has to be him for me.
Matt, you need to come up with a game to play at the end of this podcast.
I have one.
It might be a short episode. I also went with Joe Burrow.
Oh my goodness!
like you said, Matt, the only quarterback in this round. So an obvious tier break here. According to my own rankings, there would not be a tier break. There's not a big gap between Burrow and the next quarterbacks. But according to ADP, there is. So based on that, I would say Burrow is the gold mine here. I too would rather have him over Russell Wilson. And I would, if I've got that late first rounder, I'm okay taking Burrow in the first round.
Yep.
Not even waiting to the second.
I did not go with Burrow. He would have been my second choice. I actually did take Cam Akers, nice. Matt, because of the value that he presents. He comes in at 22, running back 8 in our ADP, and there's a couple running backs in front of him, guys, earlier in this round, like Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, who I prefer Akers, honestly, out of those 3 guys. I think he should be 4 or 5 spots higher. Obviously love the offense and love what he's expected to do. It's really weird, Ryan and Matt. We talked, I think, on the podcast a couple times very early in the offseason about how Cam Akers was perhaps the hardest player to go get out in the community. Everybody loved him so much, and it seems like that has slipped slightly. He hasn't really jumped into that next tier as I expected. I'd really expect him to be closer to Alvin Kamara, who is at 14 overall in the RB5. We're getting him at RB8 prices and 22 overall. That feels like a value to me. So I'll add him as my gold mine in round 2. Ryan, how about a landmine within these 12 players? Who's the guy you're trying to avoid?
Yeah, I was hoping you would start with me. I went with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. I did not say Derrick Henry last week. I think Matt did, though, and it's really for all the reasons we've talked about, so often on here. Just primarily his age. Looking not only at some of the running backs being drafted behind him, like Cam Akers, but specifically some of the younger quarterbacks, even the wide receivers being drafted behind Derrick Henry that I would rather have. I mean, here we've got him coming off the board as the RB7, middle of the second round. He's more like a 4th or 5th rounder for me in this format at best. So I think he's being way overdrafted and overvalued.
Yeah, you'll be surprised. I did copy myself from last week. I just couldn't get away from it. I think there are only 2 players in this round you could argue don't belong in this round, and Henry is one of them. The other one I would say is Stephon Diggs, but that's for some other reasons. I think he's far behind Henry in that regard, though. So Henry, for all the reasons we talked about, 27-year-old running back. You taking him in the second round of a startup dictates the rest of your draft. And if he has one injury or one unproductive year, his value it's gone. It's shot. That's too big of a risk to take in the second round.
I completely agree. For the first time, I'm not gonna veer off the path that you guys set us forth on. I went with Derrick Henry as well for all those same reasons. So that gets us through the top 24 players according to DLF ADP. That was the easiest choice for me, guys, the Derrick Henry selection in round 2. Maybe, Matt, there's other names worth considering, but it seems like Henry's in a different tier when it comes to guys at the end of their run of being elite players.
Yeah, like I said, the only other player that I would even consider removing from this round is really Stephon Diggs, just because he kind of sticks out amongst the other receivers in the round. And to be honest, I'd rather have Devontae Adams ahead of him. I'd rather have some of these guys that we're going to talk about in the third round ahead of him as well. I understand why he's there, but he doesn't really fit with the other players in this round, in my opinion.
Sure. Let's jump over to round 3. This is full of a really solid mix of young players and veterans as well. Matt, if you had to pick your gold mine here, the guy you're going to build around, who would it be in round 3?
It's Trey Lance, and this is one that I think he's a mid to late second round pick, honestly, in a Superflex league. I'd rather have him from over everybody pretty much from Henry down. in a startup format like this with them. We might have to wait a week or two. I don't know. I don't think we're going to have to wait a full season. I know we've been hearing some of that lately, that Garoppolo might be good again and play the whole season. I kind of find that hard to believe. So
again,
again, right. So, and if I have to wait, whatever, I'll productive struggle year one, and I'll be totally fine taking a high player next year and having Lance for my, the start of my dynasty. So, just in terms of where he's going compared to the players around him and where the players that are above him, I think he sticks out for me as the gold mine.
I have a feeling, Ryan, that this is going to be a clean sweep.
Oh no.
Well, this round is stacked.
It's so good. This round is so good.
I think I would, if this were an option or were easily doable in a startup draft, I would just push my first and second rounders back, pick up a couple of extra third rounders, and be pretty happy because we do have Trey Lance, who you talked about. Also, Justin Fields is in this round. And then if for whatever reason you want to go away from the quarterback position, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, CD Lamb, all in this round as well. So it's just a stacked third round. I think we talked about the third round as being pretty loaded last week as well. I did go with Lance, but I also put Fields down. They've been so closely associated this entire off season, really, as being kind of a toss up as the quarterback 2 and 3 in the class. I do prefer Lance, but getting Justin Fields would certainly be a good thing as well. And I'm with you. I don't think we have to wait long to see either one of these guys on the field and making a difference. I would love to get them as my quarterback 2 in a Superflex draft.
Yeah, and I'm on the side of the fence that Lance could go as high as like the last pick in the first round. Even as far as I'm concerned, he is the 1A to Trevor Lawrence, and Lawrence is all the way up at 10 overall, QB 7. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance, after a few weeks of the NFL schedule, or maybe even into the preseason, if he jumps way, way higher and cuts his ADP in half. I'll make it a clean sweep. It's Trey Lance, and it's by quite a ways. I like him significantly more than Justin Fields, and that's not a knock on Fields. I just think Lance is closer to Trevor Lawrence than he is to Fields. So great value at 27 overall and QB 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan, when you're talking about that first round. I want to move Dalvin Cook out of the first round. I want to move Russell Wilson out of the first round, and probably Saquon Barkley as well. And I'm putting Burrow, Fields, and Lance all in round 1. I think they're all first-round startup picks. Just the landscape of that Superflex dynasty space right now, you've got to take a quarterback in the first round. You have to. And luckily, there's plenty of options.
12 quarterbacks, round 1. All 12.
Oh, my gosh. It's not that far away, Matt.
It's not. We're at 8.
We're at 8, and it could grow really quickly.
Well, honestly, I think it's 11.
It's 11 in McCaffrey.
Yeah, and if you want to take Wilson over McCaffrey, I think that's fine. Wilson has more quality years left than McCaffrey easily.
It certainly seems that way. So round 3 is full of studs, full of guys that we want on our roster. We're trading our early picks to get third round picks so we can stack up in the middle rounds as well. There's got to be a landmine in here, though, Ryan. Who of these 12 players in round 3, according to DLF, Superflex ADP, are you avoiding?
There weren't many landmine options. I definitely considered Aaron Rodgers, and I won't say too much about him in case one of you Packers homers went with Rodgers. But obviously the age and a little bit of uncertainty about his future have to be a little concerning. I can't believe he's going above Trey Lance. But the guy I chose was Travis Kelce. And I think I mentioned Kelce last week as well, so I did copy a little bit. But again, he's tight end 1 in this ADP. We've already decided that we disagree with that data. Our rankings would look different. I want Kyle Pitts above him and probably want George Kittle above him as well. So I just don't think Kelce belongs in this round.
Completely agree with that. Matt, did you go with Kelce?
I didn't. And I talked about Kittle last week as a landmine, I think, again, just because I think Pitt should be ahead of him. But no, I went with Jalen Hurts. And this one's kind of like one of those landmines in an old war movie where the guy steps on it and there's a pause and you don't know if it's okay or if you're about to explode on you, right? So that's kind of how I feel about Hurts. Like I absolutely see him working out as a running quarterback that's going to provide us lots of fantasy points with his legs, and maybe is improved as a passer. What we did see in the short little span there at the end of the season was pretty good as a passer, but I don't know. I just have this feeling and the bad feeling about him a little bit just based on the offense that they've put around him right now. I'm not as confident in Devonta Smith's success as others. Jalen Reagor still has a lot to prove. Miles Sanders, as much as I love him, probably has a little bit to prove. So I think I could see him struggling, and I just think he's like at an inflection point. If he does well, he's going to be a top 10 dynasty quarterback and probably in the first round of Superflex leagues. And if it doesn't work out, then he might not have a job next year. So that's why I went with Hurts.
We're all going to have different answers on this one for the first time. I did go with Aaron Rodgers, mainly because of what you said there, Ryan. His name is listed before Trey Lance. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Even Jalen Hurts, I don't see that. A soon-to-be 38-year-old quarterback, and I know all the MVP talk, and if you're dialed into Green Bay media, it seems like there aren't a lot of options for him. If he's going to play football, he's going to have to play for the Packers. So it's likely he's back, at least in my opinion. That doesn't matter. I'm not investing a top 26 pick. He's 26 overall in a 38-year-old quarterback. I don't care if he plays as long as Tom Brady has played. It's just not a good way to use a draft pick in a startup. I love Aaron Rodgers and want him on my teams, but if I'm in a startup and considering him over a guy like Trey Lance, somebody knock some sense into me. Holy cow. How about round 4? We got some more fine options for sure for Goldmines. Matt, is there a name that sticks out more than any other?
In round 4 for Goldmine, I guess this could technically be a landmine too. It's kind of a little bit in the same vein as Jalen Hurts, and that's Deshaun Watson, a quarterback 14. Like it seems like a place I'm willing to pull the trigger there. Now, in an actual startup draft, depending on how my team structure has been built the first 3 rounds, I might not want that kind of risk on my team. But I'm in the camp that I'm just assuming that he's not going to play at all in 2020, and I think he'll be back in 2021. And I don't think that's necessarily that far out of the range of possibilities. So at QB 14, when previously he's been the quarterback 2, as high as the quarterback 2 overall, I just feel like that's an opportunity to make a lot of money if it works out for him legally. And at this point in the middle of the 4th round, I think it's a risk I'm willing to take for the potential payoff.
I like it. Ryan, before you get to your gold mine, what are your thoughts on Watson? Did he qualify for you as somebody you'd think about taking as your gold mine, or is he closer to a landmine for you?
It's wild that he was in consideration for both. Ultimately, I didn't list him at either spot. I can't decide what I think of that situation. I still like the idea of buying low. But I trust my buddy Drew Davenport, who is a lawyer and works for Football Guys as well, and he's been tweeting a lot about this situation. Right now, there's still a lot of unknown, but based on Drew's professional opinion, does not look good. Certainly for 2021, and maybe even beyond, which is a little scary from a fantasy football perspective. And then obviously when you consider, I guess, the real world, there's going to be plenty of dynasty players and fantasy players who just don't want that guy on their roster. And I definitely understand that as well.
For me, Ryan, I love it that Matt listed him as a gold mine. Yeah. I love it that there's dynasty managers out there willing to kind of stick their neck out a little bit to try to grab value when an opportunity comes up. So that sounds great, Matt. But the amount of risk that you're putting into that and the, I don't know, maybe unlikelihood for you, especially because of the way you build your teams, usually to win immediately, the unlikelihood that you'd have the right kind of roster through 3 rounds to grab Deshaun Watson, that's a little head scratching for me.
I mean, let's say I end up with like like a really young team, like I end up with like Lawrence and then Lance or something like that in the first couple of rounds, and throw whatever other, maybe Pitts in the third round, something like that. In that case, like I can wait, and if I can come out of my startup with 3 potential top 5 quarterbacks going forward, like that seems like it's worth the risk to me, if my team was to be built that way. I'm not saying that it would be, I'm not sure that it would, but I can see a scenario where I would want to take him there. And maybe even if I did have a competing team, maybe I'm confident enough in my ability the rest of the draft to suck up 1 4th round pick, and have that quarterback for the following year. If it was in the 3rd round, I would say no way. There's too many good players there. But if we're talking about the guys that in this particular round, I mean, I don't know. Other than Pitts, like I feel like the rest of Pitts and maybe Chase, I feel like the rest of the players in this, it would be worth the risk to me, to get that kind of player.
I like it. As I said, it's good that there are dynasty managers that are willing to do it. I'm personally not one of them. I'm staying away where I have the opportunity to.
Well, I think it's just it's a case of it's a lot easier to buy low in an existing league than it is to take the discount in a startup draft.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the trade value is going to be a lot lower than what we're seeing in this ADP, I think.
Yeah, we're not seeing any Deshaun Watson for Kyle Pitts trades right now.
Oh no. Or Zeke, or honestly even Stafford. I mean, if you offered Watson for Stafford right now in a Superflex league, I think that would be rejected in most situations. Yeah,
right. What about your pick for a gold mine though, Ryan? Who'd you go with?
There were some good choices. Watson again was one of them. We talked about Pitts. Jamar Chase is here. I went a little left of what I would normally say, I think, and went with Tua Tagovailoa here. That young quarterback. We're seeing him at quarterback 16. Certainly some questions coming off of his rookie season, but honestly, I mean, even late into the offseason, we didn't know if this guy would even play as a rookie because of that hip injury. They've added some weapons, namely Jalen Waddle, to that offense. I trust the coaching staff. I think Tua is in for a big value boost, and like the value that he's offering here in the late 4th.
Oh my goodness! I thought I'd be on an island picking Tua here as my gold mine, and here I am following up Ryan McDowell, who I've heard you throw a little shade on Tua from time to time, just a little from time to time. I'm totally on board with it. When you consider all the other young quarterbacks with that kind of upside going so much higher, and to get him at quarterback 16 all the way down at the end of round 4, that feels like a massive bargain. The quarterbacks surrounding him are Matthew Stafford and Baker Mayfield, also Tannehill and Watson on either side. But man, that feels like such a value for considering the youth. And it has to be the injury that you're kind of clinging to, because there were negatives that happened throughout last season. There were certainly positives as well, but there were times during the season where he was simply benched when he started the games. And that's not usually something dynasty managers will look past. Usually that's a huge negative, a red flag, and that'll drive his ADP down. I guess it has to some extent, but there's certainly enough of us that are still on that bandwagon seeing Tua as a potential top 5, top 6 type quarterback in Superflex, and to get him down at quarterback 16 when he's still so young seems like a potential gold mine for me.
Yeah, I also heard Evan Silva make this point on one of his podcasts in relation to Tua, that offense last year was basically catered to Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was Fitzpatrick, they thought, that would start the entire season, and the offense that you build for Fitzpatrick and the offense you build for Tua are very different. So it simply wasn't that perfect fit that you would hope it would be this season.
I hadn't heard that point from Evan, and I guess that could be true. I watched every game that the Dolphins played last year, though, and watched how they handled Tua. He came in after the bye. It seemed like a planned situation, like what they expected to do. Most likely, they even announced it very early in before the actual bye. So I kind of felt like Tua was the plan for Tua was to come in after that bye, become the starter, and take over from that point on, no matter where they were in the season, because Fitzpatrick had them winning football games. They were certainly part of the playoff race. If that was the case, if they weren't necessarily planning on sitting down Fitzpatrick, and Tua was just playing so well at that point in the season, it's a surprise to me. That's something I hadn't thought of and didn't see when I watched the games last year. In round 4, there are a few options for potential landmines. Ryan, is there a guy that is a bigger landmine than others for you?
There is. I went with the player chosen right behind Tua, which is Baker Mayfield. And I chose Tua because I think he has that upside to really gain value, maybe move up as much as 2 rounds or even more in ADP over the next year. I just don't see that upside with Baker. You look at his 3 full seasons, quarterback 16, quarterback 19, quarterback 17. They haven't really made any improvements to the pass catching core there in Cleveland. It's still OBJ and Landry, and there's questions about how much longer they're going to be around, certainly beyond the 21 season. And then this is a team that's going to win games with Nick Chubb running the ball. So I just don't know if Baker Mayfield has that upside. We're talking Superflex. He's quarterback 17 here. He's a fine quarterback too in a Superflex league. But with that 4th round pick, I just want a little more upside.
Matt, how about you?
I went with DeAndre Hopkins, and it's not because I don't like Hopkins this year or even next year or the year after that. I feel like he's going to fall. His value in Dynasty is going to kind of follow a similar path as Julio has recently. Wide receiver 9 in this ADP that we're looking at now in June 2021. This time last year, he was the wide receiver 3. Last year, Julio was the wide receiver 9. This year, Julio is the wide receiver 19. So are we looking at a 5th, 6th round kind of DeAndre Hopkins at this time next year? I'm not sure. So, again, depending on your roster construction, Hopkins could certainly make sense here for your team. But taking him over Chase, who went 4 picks later and has similar abilities, and obviously we haven't seen it on the field in a year, and certainly not in the NFL. But that seems like a tough choice to make for me to take Hopkins over Chase at that point. So just because of value and what's going to happen to it, no matter what kind of season, if he finishes as the wide receiver 1 overall, I still think we're going to see a round or 2 tumble in terms of his startup ADP and probably in his trade value as well.
I'm a big Nuke fan, of course, and think Hopkins is one of the best receivers that we have seen over since I started watching football. Really, I love watching him play football. Have him on so many teams, and I agree with you. I considered Hopkins for this. His ADP is going to plummet, and it's simply because of age, and that's even with one of those strong seasons, as you kind of alluded to there, Matt. I didn't go with Hopkins though. I actually went with his former teammate, Deshaun Watson, for the reasons that I kind of talked about before. And I like what Ryan said at the end of that conversation. I just can't do it in a startup. That's not a big enough discount for me to make the plunge right there. So, Matt, I tip my hat to you for being willing to make that kind of decision. I'm so risk averse when it comes to these things. Seen way too many truly elite players kind of fall to the wayside, and even if they do rebound and get some of that value back, it seems like there's always another point where it's easier to get them or a better time to get them or even a bigger discount. I think that's what's going to kind of happen when it comes to Deshaun Watson.
You could be right. I mean, I think the real inflection point is when we find out whatever the final sentencing is and how much time he's going to miss, right? I mean, I don't know if those are going to come at the same time or different times, but he's going to keep falling in value probably until we know what the decision is. And then at that point, he'll either bounce way back up, probably right back into the 1st or 2nd round of startups, or he'll completely go off of the board. So just a very volatile player.
Yeah, that's the other thing I meant to say earlier. Even if you have plans to buy low, I think we're going to have better opportunities for that than right now.
Yeah, and to piggyback onto that for sure, we are really just getting into or just before getting into the big news cycle in the NFL, right? Everything starts picking up big time as we get closer to training camp, and that's when those smaller reports will trickle in when it comes to Watson, and hopefully we can kind of make a decision based on that information that we get. And we can really go at the opportune moment if we're going to try to add Deshaun Watson to our rosters. Round 5, we get into a lot of veteran players now, guys, especially when it comes to these quarterbacks. If there's a guy for you that you think is the gold mine, Ryan, who is it for you?
Yeah, you're right. We got 4 quarterbacks in this round. Ryan Tannehill is 32. Matt Ryan is 36. Kirk Cousins is 32, and also not that good. So I went with Zach Wilson, who is 21 years old, and the fourth of the rookie quarterbacks. We, obviously a little bit of a discount here, or really a significant discount from Lance and Fields to Wilson. And I mean, there's still questions about the Jets offense, but it's that new regime. And I wouldn't say I'm trusting the new regime, but I'm also not holding the past against them. They added Elijah Moore as well, plus brought in Corey Davis and some other weapons. I think we're discounting Zach Wilson way too much. He's down here at quarterback 19.
Matt, how about you?
I went with Miles Sanders way down at running back 19. Last year, he was in the second round, I believe, running back 9. Yep. So he's also fallen 10 spots. And, last season was up and down. I feel like it's better than we're giving him credit for, though, especially down the stretch when he was losing receptions to Boston Scott. Still had 4 receptions in 2 of his last 3 games, average over 5 yards a carry. So I think he's still good. Where he fits in with this particular offense, I'm not necessarily sure, especially in terms of the pass catching with Jalen Hurts there at quarterback now, and what we know about rushing quarterbacks and their effect on pass catching backs. But I just feel like running back 19 is too low. And of this group, I think Javonte could certainly be taken ahead of him safely, just based on his current value and what happens to those rookie running backs if they do hit. But otherwise, every running back for the most part after him and a few of them before him, I feel like I should probably be behind him, and that the hype is, or the negative hype, I guess, has gone a little bit too far on Sanders. So I think in the 5th round, he makes a good pick.
I'm not that it has anything to do with this pick specifically, not with Miles Sanders, Matt, but I'm super disappointed in you. You went with 4 straight quarterbacks. You had Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Trey Lance, then Deshaun Watson. I thought it was going to be a quarterback, and you went with Miles Sanders. So
I had oh, you mean as the gold mine? Yeah,
as your gold mines. Yeah, you had a string going, and I thought you were going to make it all the way through potentially. Not quite though. I did go with the quarterback. I took Zach Wilson as well. And again, to piggyback on what Ryan said, I think we may have talked about it on the pod. Maybe it was a private conversation between the 3 of us, but it seems to me that Wilson is such a discount, and we as dynasty managers forget that he was actually selected above a couple of these quarterbacks that were taking 2 and 3 rounds earlier in dynasty startups, and way earlier even in Superflex rookie drafts. And a lot of us talk ourselves into it being, it's the Jets. They constantly make bad decisions. Or I watched all that pro day information. I saw Zach Wilson and I ranked him way lower than Trey Lance or Justin Fields. So clearly he should be way worse, ranked even way lower. But professional evaluators, and at least one, the Jets front office, and probably way more, had Zach Wilson ranked higher than some of these guys that we're picking in the 2nd and 3rd round in these startups. So I just don't want to get so cocky and so arrogant that, we know more than these professional general managers and these front offices that are built with multiple great minds that constantly make really good decisions. And we focus on all the bad decisions that have happened. What are we doing here? Zach Wilson was the 2nd pick. He was selected over these guys. I just don't think we should completely disregard the fact that talent evaluators think Zach Wilson is a better prospect than guys like Trey Lance and even Justin Fields. So I think Zach Wilson is a clear value all the way down here in the 5th round.
No, I think it's a good point, especially considering, this is kind of the treatment we gave Josh Allen too, right? And while I'm still not, the biggest Josh Allen quarterback 2 overall fan kind of guy, obviously we all missed on the most part on him. So Wilson could certainly have that kind of trajectory,
Yeah, and I really hope he does, because there are a lot of positives when it comes to his game, and Jets fans certainly deserve a quarterback that can lead them into positivity instead of all these negative situations that continue to happen. It feels like they're regurgitating quarterbacks and coaches and even front office guys over and over and over again. The NFL's better when the Jets have a chance, for sure. How about some landmines here? Matt, why don't you kick us off with a landmine in round 5?
I'll do my landmine real quick. I did want to mention real quick, Ryan Tannehill. I bet his ADP is different in July. I bet that's up a round or 2. I don't know 100%, Ryan, if you have that much data yet on him. I'm guessing not. But I think this happened probably post Julio would be my guess. So I'm guessing he's probably like a 4th rounder. My landmine, though, is Matt Ryan. I'm not sure he's that good anymore. I do obviously like Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley, so I should like Matt Ryan, right? But getting older, I kind of feel like he's on the maybe the Phillip Rivers career trajectory, right? Where like he's just gonna, once he's done, he might go to one other team and then he's gonna call it a day. I don't think he's gonna be like end up as like a backup quarterback in the league or anything like that. So I would probably rather have Cousins than him if I was going to take a quarterback in that range. Is certainly Wilson and Tannehill. So I guess no great reason, but I think the end is near for him, and there's so many other good players around him that I would have a tough time pulling the trigger on Matt Ryan right here.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, I went with Keenan Allen.
How dare you?
A player I like and expect him to produce, but here he's being drafted here as the wide receiver 12, so a wide receiver 1 at 29 years old, and I think I could find at least 10 wide receivers drafted behind him that I would prefer. So just, I don't know. I had to double check the numbers on that to make sure that's really where he was being drafted. Just going down the line, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, McLaurin, we're just almost all of them behind him. I would prefer. I can't imagine drafting him in the 5th round of a Superflex league.
Matt, you're gonna hate it with Keenan Allen too.
I hate it, but I understand it. Like I would take almost all of those people ahead of him too. So I completely understand, but there's no way I'm ever calling him a landmine.
Yeah, okay, I get it. He's one of your guys and has been for a long time, and honestly, he's never let me down on any of my dynasty rosters either. But like Ryan said, his name just doesn't fit with some of the others around him in round 5 and even round 6 and beyond. It feels like we should be discounting him more by this point in his career, and we're just not to that point, at least according to our ADP. So I went with Keenan Allen as well in round 5. Let's try to get one more round in and then play a little game before we get out of here, guys. Ryan, if there is a gold mine in round 6, who is it?
Yeah, I think you might be disappointed in me as well, Dan. I had the streak of quarterbacks going. I'm going to break that here.
Okay.
Go with Travis Etienne. He's the RB21, kind of along the same conversation or argument that Matt made for Sanders. I would rather have Etienne than Jacobs, who's being drafted ahead of him. I want him over Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, and certainly want him over some of the other wide receivers being drafted. I think he's more like a early 5th or late 4th rounder. So I like the discount you're getting here in the early 6th round on Etienne.
I also said Etienne for all of those reasons. He should be closer to where Najee Harris is being drafted, to be honest with you. But that sticks out like a sore thumb. Etienne is all the way, Najee Harris is all the way up in the 3rd round, and Etienne's down in the 6th round. I don't really get that. So at least a round or 2 too late on Etienne, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's early in the round, but certainly sticks out to me as well. There really wasn't anybody that was all that close as far as when it comes to a gold mine. So I went with Etienne as well. That makes it a clean sweep. Let's quickly recap all the gold mines. For Matt, he had Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Trey Lance, Deshaun Watson, Miles Sanders, and Travis Etienne. Ryan, you had Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Trey Lance, Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson, and Travis Etienne. And then I went with my 6 choices as a gold mine. Kyler Murray, Cam Akers, Trey Lance, Tua Tagovailoa, Zach Wilson, and Etienne. How about some landmines, Matt? Who's yours in round 6?
I think this might be a repeat, but it's Julio again. Has fallen 40 spots since this time last year, and overall ADP and 10 spots in terms of positional ADP. And I mean, maybe he's, I don't know. I do think there's an argument to be made that he has fallen. The largest fall he's going to have, he's already had. So like he could be around this like late 6th round, 7th round again next year with a healthy and productive 2021, right? But I just think another fall is coming. So if I could take T. Higgins 2 picks after him, or Brandon Ayuk 3 picks after him, again, that just seems like it's difficult to make that choice, despite how productive he might be in 2021. So Julio Jones again is my landmine.
It's Julio for me as well. I mean, it's not just Higgins is wide receiver 20, Ayuk wide receiver 21, Claypool wide receiver 24, but it's not just those guys. I mean, Juju is wide receiver 30, Jerry Jeudy's 31, DJ Chark is 35. Like Julio Jones is probably 30 picks too high here.
Yeah, I tried not to copy any of my picks from last week, but I had to go with Julio as well. So both of our round 6 picks, Etienne as the gold mine and Julio as the landmine, I guess they're all clean sweeps. Let's quickly recap the landmines. Matt, with you took Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Hopkins, Matt Ryan, and Julio Jones. Ryan's landmines are Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, Baker Mayfield, Keenan Allen, and Julio Jones. And then I went with Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Keenan Allen, and Julio Jones. Matt, last week we played a game. You flashed us back to 2015, I believe it was, June of 2015 ADP. What kind of game do you want to finish things off with this week?
Well, it's going to be pretty much the same, but we didn't have Superflex data in 2015. But so the farthest back we go is June of 2019, at least in terms of like if we're going to match up the months, right? So we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna tell you guys. Wait, did I tell you guys how many of each position there were last time, or did we just play? I can't remember. I don't want to spoil the info.
I don't think we did that till real late.
Okay, well then I won't spoil that, but there are some really interesting things with the positional makeups just 2 years after 2019. So let's start. 12. There's 12 spots in the first round, and you got to name all 12 of them. Dan,
I got to take Mahomes.
Mahomes is correct. Second overall, quarterback 1.
I will say Saquon Barkley.
Saquon 101.
That's a good pick. I got to take McCaffrey then. He should have been running back 2, I imagine.
Running back 2, number 3 overall.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm already out.
I got one more. Pretty confident on.
I think you'll get them all except for maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara. I think
Alvin, correct. 4th overall, running back 3.
I didn't really want to dip into more running backs. I don't feel great about them. And I'm sure I'll mess up the wide receiver thing, but I think Andrew Luck's probably the quarterback 2.
Andrew Luck is not the quarterback 2. Andrew Luck, I believe. No, he wasn't quite gone yet, right? At this time?
No, he wasn't
gone yet. Not gone now.
No, but he is not.
He was that fall. He was that fall, but nobody had any indication. He has to be pretty high on it.
Yeah, 6 weeks later, he was gone.
Yeah.
He was quarterback 3 just outside the first round.
Oh, are you kidding me?
You just missed.
That was my guy I was confident in.
I mean, that's what Matt was hinting at. The quarterback 3 was outside of the first round in Superflex. So we had 2 quarterbacks, right? We had Mahomes and one other. That's it. 2 out of 12.
So we've doubled every year. We in the first year in June when we had Superflex ADP, we had 2. In 2020, we had 4, and now this year we have 8. So you can see the evolvement of or the evolution of the quarterback strategy in Superflex leagues.
Okay,
Right.
so then I will say OBJ.
OBJ is right. Wide receiver 1 still just 2 years ago. Number 6 overall.
That would make
Crazy.
Hopkins one of the top 12 as well.
Yep, wide receiver 2, 7th overall.
So the quarterback 2 is in the first round.
He is.
I have a guess, but I'm not willing to die on that mountaintop again.
I will say it was, just 2 years ago, and we already lose perspective. I will say it's Deshaun Watson.
It is 10th overall, quarterback 2, Deshaun Watson.
I would have been wrong. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers.
That was the other I was thinking about.
Okay.
Rodgers was 15th, quarterback 4.
I'm going to take his number 1 receiver then. I'll take Adams.
Yep, 8th overall, wide receiver 3.
Okay. You got to miss
4
one
players
there,
left.
Ryan, because I'm running low on names.
I've got one name left.
Okay.
Zeke Elliott.
That's correct. 5th overall, running back 4. You guys still have number 9, number 11, and number 12 to go.
9, 11, and 12. And oh man, and I'm going to take a shot on a player that I don't really like. Maybe he's in there. Is it Mike Evans?
It is not Mike Evans. That's strike 2.
This is an unfair fight. I'm battling Mr. ADP himself.
No, I mean, I'm at the end of the line here. I was going to see if Todd Gurley was still in there.
He is not in there. There are 2 running backs left, however.
2 running backs. Okay, that is a clue that could help
Yep.
me. I wasn't thinking about any.
Might want a little bit of a hand.
And we know there's not a quarterback. There must be 2 of each then, right?
There's 3 players left.
There's only 3
Oh,
players
only
left.
3. So 1
9,
wide
11,
receiver.
12.
There's not going to be a tight end. So 1 wide receiver and 2 running backs. I
That
am
is
drawing
correct.
some blanks. I guess maybe I don't want to say Le'Veon Bell. I'll say I'm going to go back to wide receiver again, I guess. Michael Thomas.
That's what I was going to say. Oh,
That's wrong?
That is wrong.
Oh,
That is-
man.
that's
I will
what I
tell
was
you.
gonna say.
I'm going to give you one more hint. 2 of them are nowhere near the first round anymore. One of them is sort of close.
Sort of close. Okay. Fire off some names, McDowell. Let's.
it could be Lev Bell. Michael Thomas was going to be my guess.
Okay.
Okay, this is 2 years ago. So this is.
Who had a really strong season in 2018?
I know.
I mean, really
strong
strong.
season in 18.
I mean,
know.
real strong.
Oh, you know one?
I think I know one.
Go ahead.
I think the wide receiver's Juju.
It is Juju, wide receiver 4 overall, 9th, or excuse me,
Never
wide receiver
thought of
4,
him.
9th overall.
So the last 2 are running backs
running
that were
backs.
nowhere near.
One of them is pretty close, and one of them is not very close.
The pretty close one is.
Did you guess Le'Veon Bell?
No, not officially.
Don't
I'm gonna-
guess officially. It's not.
Okay. The one that. Oh, I was going to say Dalvin Cook for a second. How about
yeah.
Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon is correct. Running back 5,
Oh.
11th overall, 1 to go.
Well, if
Cook's
it's not
still-
Bell,
I
and
almost
it's
said
not
Dalvin
Gurley.
Cook, but you said the guy's close, not in. So I would have been wrong. I would have said Cook if you
Oh,
wouldn't
that's
have given
true.
us the.
If it's not Bell and not Gurley, it's Melvin Gordon.
That is correct. It is
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon.
Oh.
12th overall.
I would have
running
never
back.
said Gordon. I would have never said Juju. And I don't think I would have ever thought of Odell Beckham either.
6 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks. Excuse me, 2 quarterbacks versus today. What was it? 8 quarterbacks and 4 running backs, no wide receivers.
I think McDowell needs a new challenger next week, so I'll come up with a game. And Matt, you can take him on.
We're
because
out of Goldmine Landmines unless we're going deep.
Matt's
No,
better at ADP than I am.
we'll do something else.
I don't know
guess.
about it anymore. I haven't been playing game night as much lately. I haven't been crunching.
Hey, that's
the
on
numbers,
you,
so to
buddy.
speak. Hey,
I'm sure they'd let you in.
Kamara, Barkley, and Mahomes. Kamara, Barkley, and Mahomes are the only three still there, right?
What's that?
In Superflex, yeah.
Or not Kamara, I'm sorry. McCaffrey.
Yes.
McCaffrey, Mahomes, and Barkley are the only three that are still first rounders from 2 years ago.
And you said those were the top 3 2 years ago, right?
Where did I put it? There it is. Yes. Barkley, Mahomes, McCaffrey.
Wow.
So lots of changes though. The Juju one, the Odell one, and the Melvin Gordon ones are, we need to learn from those lessons probably. I don't know. They're all different lessons. The Juju one nobody saw coming, but perhaps.
Well, the OBJ one, I don't know. There's no way I was getting off of that hype of Baker getting a real wide receiver and how good the team was going to be in 2019, right? Or excuse me, 2019.
Yeah, well, that would have been Baker's second season coming off a strong first season, so he had to be the quarterback 4 after Luck. Then I would imagine.
Let me go. I can look.
Or you said Rodgers was 4. So
Rodgers was 4.
He must have been 5.
I think Melvin was the only real mistake there.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
And when you think about the quarterback position, I mean, half of our current QB1s probably, I'm just kind of throwing that out, but a big number of them, a big percentage of them were not even in the league even 2 years ago, right? Yep. I mean, Lance Fields, Lawrence are all QB1s according to ADP right now. Kyler Murray, I think this is. I guess he was in this data, but he hadn't played a down yet. So, if I'm getting my years correct, I might be off a little bit there. But yeah, we've just seen so much change at the quarterback position. Even if you wanted to go heavy at quarterback 2 years ago, it was tough to do that.
Especially with youth. We've had this new influx of talent, which was desperately needed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say was like we had this like top 4 quarterbacks where we felt pretty strong about with Mahomes and Watson and Luck at the time before the bomb got dropped, right? And then down to Russell Wilson even. But other than that, they were all either old guys or unproven guys with Rodgers and Mayfield and Carson Wentz at quarterback 7, Matt Ryan at quarterback 8. So it was just kind of a flux time where we were not that excited about the quarterback. So, I mean, it would be interesting to be able to go back then and see if that was really the key reason why we didn't have so many quarterbacks in the first round of Superflex drafts, or if our strategy just evolved because it kind of finally caught on with like the general population that the quarterbacks is the position of most value in that league. Probably a combination of the two, I guess.
Yeah. Lamar, Josh Allen, both were not established at that point. So yeah, lots of change, much needed change at that position.
Yeah, now we're looking at a top 15, even a top 20 that is full of a lot of youth. That goes all the way down to guys like Zach Wilson and Baker Mayfield, who's still young, Tua, who we talked about in this episode, and even deeper with Mac Jones, who there are plenty of supporters out there that feel like he's going to make an impact for dynasty managers. So we needed the talent, and it seems like we have gotten it. Speaking of talent, Ryan, Matt, the episode is over. So we've covered everything we could right here. We're going to take things in a different direction a week from now. That'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Everybody get your SFB picks in. Don't time out. Enjoy the drafts because it's so much fun. But for Ryan and Matt, I'm Dan. Thanks for listening to this episode of the DLF Dynasty Podcast. We'll catch you again next week.